優しい日本語の文法へようこそ。
皆さん、こんにちは。今日は連帯就職について勉強してみましょ
う。Let's have a look at relative clauses today. Not how to make them, but what they are and how they work in Japanese. Now, this is a topic that seems to cause a fair bit of angst, but it's actually very straightforward in Japanese. So let's start by looking at a basic sentence.
これは本です。
Now, on its own, this is not really a very useful sentence. However, if we add more information to this noun, this word book, it becomes a much more viable sentence, a sentence that you're much more likely to say, as in these examples.
これは私の本です。これは変な本です。これは面白い本です。
What we're doing in all of these sentences is we are giving more information about a noun in a sentence, and that is called modifying the noun. So in this example here, we're looking at a noun modifying another noun, and here we're using two adjectives, an I adjective and a na adjective, to give more information about our noun, in this case, the book. Now, the relative clauses that people seem to get themselves into a bit of a knot about are the ones where we're using a verb to modify our noun. It's actually very straightforward. It's just the same strategy as we were using in all these sentences here. Now, here's a lovely example of a relative clause using a verb to modify our noun, the book.
これは昨日買った本です。
As in the previous examples, here we have a noun, the book, and we have more information about that book. And as in the other sentences, the information that is giving more information about the noun goes before the noun. In English, that modifying clause goes after the noun, and there's a whole range of little words like that, which, who, that you need to join the two elements of the sentence together in English. However, in Japanese, it's much more straightforward. Let's look at another kind of sentence here now.
友はケーキを食べました。
Now again, the situations where you'd say a basic sentence like this are fairly limited. However, if we add more information to one part of this sentence, it becomes much more usable. So let's start by working with cake.
友は旬のケーキを食べました。友は変なケーキを食べました。友は大きいケーキを食べました。
So you can see here we're using the same strategies as we did before. We're adding a noun, a na adjective, and an I adjective to our original noun cake to make a much more interesting sentence. And as in the previous examples, those modifying elements are all going before the noun. This time we're going to describe the cake using a verb.
友は昨日買ったケーキを食べました。
And you can see it's exactly the same as we were doing before. Here is our noun, the cake. This is the word we want to give more information about, and the extra information is going before the noun. Now, this little section of the sentence here is called a relative clause. It's simply a small part of a sentence that gives extra information about a noun. A relative clause gives the answer to the question, which cake, which book, and it tells us more information about a noun in a sentence. Okay, let's introduce another subject to the sentence here. Let's say we want to say Tomo ate the cake that Shun bought yesterday. You can see we've got the elements Tomo ate the cake and we've got bought, and we need to put Shun into this part of the sentence here. Now, Shun is the one who bought the cake, and normally we would use wa in Japanese to show that. The position of topic in this sentence is already occupied by Tomo because he's the one that ate the cake, and that's really what we want to say in this sentence, that Tomo ate the cake. If we try and put shun in with the wa, it's not going to work. For Doctor Who fans out there, it's a little bit like the TARDIS trying to materialize in a place that's already occupied. If we try to put shun with wa into this sentence, how do we know who is the one that's buying the cake and who is the one that's eating the cake? Think of the word before wa as like the ruler of the whole sentence. Now, you can't have two rulers in a sentence. You get all kinds of trouble, leads to civil war. So what we need to do is we need to come up with another solution that will show that Tomo is the one that ate the cake, but Shun is the one that bought the cake that Tomo ate. So what can we do? The solution is that we use ga to mark the secondary subject, not the topic of the whole sentence, which is Tomo, but the subject of our relative clause, the subject of our small part of the sentence here, which is Shun. Now, with this ga, shun fits perfectly into this sentence. The ga marks the subject of just this little section of the sentence here. It's as though wa is the ruler of the whole sentence and ga is like a local governor. In a relative clause, ga is like a magnet that just sticks a small group of words together inside a larger sentence. So that's the basics of relative clauses for you. Basically, all you have to do is remember that relative clauses go before the noun in Japanese, and secondly, if you want to include a subject within the relative clause, you use particle ga to mark that subject. See? So that wasn't too bad, was it?
皆さん、連帯就職はそんなに難しくないですよね。ぜひ使ってください。